Welcome, everybody. I got Amber Harsin here. Why don't you introduce yourself, young lady?
Hi, my name is Amber Harsin. I'm a credit union technologist.
And how long have you been in credit? You've been in a while. Let's talk about that career path.
Yes, I started at 18 at a credit union as a teller. Worked at my first credit union for 6 years, graduated from college, left for a very brief stint into the medical field and hated that. I came back 2 years later as a branch manager for a small credit union in Utah, worked there for 6 years, and as part of some mergers and acquisitions, got the privilege of becoming a project manager for them through a core conversion, and ultimately ended up leaving to go work for the core, where I started as a member of the conversion team, and then ultimately took over product, then sales and marketing, and then CEO.
And conquered the world, basically.
6 years
Yes.
later.
And so it's such an interesting career path, I think. A lot of people do make the jump from credit unions to business partners. But, going from teller to CEO in not that long a period of time.
20 some odd years.
Yeah, no, you're very impressive.
Oh, thank you.
How do you think what helped you along the way, or who, or is there
Oh, both, right? I think that we all have who's that help us along the way. Like there's advocates that teach you or mentor you or see something in you that sometimes you don't see in yourself, that sort of help propel you along that path, or even give you the shove into the pool, so to speak. And that definitely has happened at several points throughout my career. And the second, I'm kind of bold. Like, I'm not necessarily afraid. I know. So, my first, when I came back to credit unions, how I got that job was I had some friends who worked there. They said they were hiring for a branch manager, and I just walked into the EVP's office and was like, I should be your new branch manager, and threw my resume on the desk. And then
bold.
got hired. And then, similarly, those credit union leaders at that institution were pretty pivotal in my moving over to their core. It was the core we were using at the credit union, and really advocating that, they felt like my skill set could be leveraged at a higher degree for the movement than just one individual credit union.
Right.
And the board of directors for that QSO has just always been very supportive and encouraged me to apply for the CEO job when it became available.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's awesome.
I've got a lot of cheerleaders.
Yeah, and there are a lot in the credit union movement too. Even
Oh.
some you don't even realize
Yes.
that you've got sometimes. It's
Absolutely.
just amazing. So, how did you come into credit? Like you said, you started as a teller.
Yeah.
Did you come out of high school and be like, I want to be a teller?
No. So I have to kind of go back to my backstory a little bit about this. So I was a teen mom, and my family was homeless at the time that my child was born. And so as soon as I turned 18, I had to have some way of income, right? It was a necessity job. I went to a temp agency, and the credit union that hired me for the first time ever was trying out hiring tellers through this temp agency. So I got placed at one of the larger credit unions in Utah. And just really enjoyed it. Like, loved it, loved interacting with the members, solutioning for them, helping them find solutions to their financial system problems, and then learning. The credit union helped me unlearn a lot of bad habits that had led, to where my family ended up. And so I became very committed and loyal to the fact that they walked their mission by teaching me, giving me a chance, not just with the job, but also with building credit and how to manage checking accounts. They did what they were supposed to do. And it created a really deep-rooted affection for the credit union industry and being able to do that for other people. And then by way of going to the core, it was kind of a way to enable them from a technological perspective to do that for other people.
Yeah.
So kind of allows me to pay it forward to the next person who maybe is in a similar situation.
Yeah, exactly. Pay it forward to dozens of credit unions too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
At scale, really. And so I was kind of getting at the point too, though, that you fell into credit unions,
I did.
right? And
Yeah.
they saved your butt.
Yeah.
Same for me. It's like I fell into credit unions, and when we were young and dumb, and our credit, I was like, I wouldn't lend to me, And our credit union gave us an equity loan against our home to consolidate debt, and really saved us a lot of money and headaches and stress and all that. that is a story that credit unions don't get out enough. And I want credit unions not only to be a preferred banking provider, I want credit unions to be an employer of choice.
Yep.
And we just don't, like, nobody comes out of college or we know, I want to go into credit unioning, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I spent my first 6 years, I went back to school and went to college because I was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just my like stepping stone job in my mind of you know, I was going to nursing, another like field of helping people, right? Just in a different way. And only made it 2 years. And one of my coworkers was like, do you know, you talk about how much you miss the credit unions like all the time. Like maybe you should think about whether you've made the right career choice here. And I was like, yeah, she's not wrong. I don't actually really like this. And that's what dropped me back into to credit unions, and have stayed ever since. And the career path that I've had in 25 years has been pretty unbelievable in a lot of ways. And you know, if I look back on that 18-year-old who had a 2-year-old already and was living in a trailer in our grandparents' driveway, never would I have imagined I was going to be the CEO of a tech company in an industry that I really love. So it's been a great journey.
That's amazing story. Like, I got goosebumps. I mean, I think a lot of times credit unions do that to me anyway because I'm a big nerd.
Yes.
But you know, your story is just great as well. Talk a little bit about, I mean, even now, but especially probably 20 years ago when we were starting our careers, being a woman in a professional field, but also being a female tech CEO, that's got to be challenging.
Yeah, it can be. And you know, the predecessors to me at Prodigy, the firm I worked at, were all male. They were all 20 years my senior for the most part, right? So they also had been in the workforce for a really long time. And I think it can be hard in the tech space for women to be seen sort of as anything other than maybe project managers and maybe salespeople, right? Those are marketing. Those are like these very traditional roles that you see females holding within tech, and most of the executive suite is typically held by men. And so I will say I'm going to give a little credit to credit unions here, because you've got Teresa Benvenidez, who is the CEO of Correlation, right?
Yeah.
And Share One has a female CEO now, and so I think we've as an industry actually done pretty good at trying to equalize that.
Getting better. Yep.
But if you look at the larger fintech space, and you know, all the vendors we work with in credit unions are technically some form of a fintech. We're still a minority.
Yep.
And I think you do have to work a little bit harder. You do have to be able to talk the talk even more so than a lot of other people for you to gain that validity up front, and then you're good. Like,
and women have trouble with that sometimes.
Yeah.
Saying, I'm good at this.
Yes, yeah. And you know, I say I'm bold, and you're like, oh, I'm not surprised. But you've mostly known me over the last 10 years where that has not necessarily always been the case, right? Where we sometimes minimize our talents, or we don't want to be seen as brash, excuse me, wrong word, or overbearing or domineering. And I would say from the tech perspective, you have to learn real quick to drop that.
Oh yeah.
Because it is pretty competitive.
Right. Well, in Gen X in general, you're probably
I'm a Zennial. I'm right at the cusp.
But but like you were probably kind of like, I mean, at least I was seen, not heard, kind of raised on top of being female child.
Yeah.
You know? And so having my first time asking for a promotion, I was like, do you think maybe I could, you know? And then when I went for the next time, about 4 years later, I was like, I should be your new publisher. I should be your new publisher, and here's why.
Yeah.
You know, so you do have to get over it real quick.
Yeah, so what's interesting is I walked into the credit union and threw my resume on the desk, but I never asked for a raise in the 6 years that I worked there. Like, I definitely asked for promotions and responsibilities, but I never made a fuss about my salary. Or, you know, that even took longer for me to finally be sort of brave enough or confident enough in my own skill set to say I'm worth X amount of money. But even the first time I did that, I walked in with a file folder full of research and was like, here's the role that I'm doing, and here's what the median, and here's the average, and I'm underpaid for what this is. And I got the raise, but I felt like I very much had to justify it in a very different way than I think some of my colleagues or coworkers did. Mm-hmm. That takes a lot of time to like drop that sometimes it's okay to ask. Not that the research isn't a bad idea. I actually think that's
always be able to back yourself.
Yeah, if someone comes and asks me, I appreciate that research, right? When my team comes and asks me for the same thing. But I felt like there was no chance of even having the conversation if I didn't do that up front.
Right.
And a lot of other people, particularly my male colleagues, never did that.
Yeah.
They just walked in and was like, hey, I should make more money.
The best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah. So, okay. What are three things you think have been, three characteristics that you think have been valuable to your career trajectory that others could adapt?
Ooh. Definitely being bold, and that's scary sometimes. So I guess maybe being courageous is how I would frame that a little bit differently. I also think being transparent has been very helpful. Mm-hmm. I think for me, that's been one of the ways I've been able to build relationships and trust, is that you get what you get with me. Or you know what you're getting pretty quickly. And then kind of going along with being courageous is also to just not back down from the challenge. Mm-hmm. Even when you feel like you're not suited or you're not equipped or you don't really know what you're doing, especially now. We have so many resources at our fingertips to learn that you almost don't have an excuse anymore to be like, well, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
Because you can log online and learn that skill at least at a rudimentary starting point and go from there. So to just not be afraid of the challenge and to at least try.
Yep. Love it. So I always offer final thoughts at the end. I'll let you have the last word, which is hard for me.
Okay. What's the last word? Leave people better than you found them and empower them to meet whatever their next goal is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thanks.